Hello and welcome to another review. Today we have Cities Skylines II. And before I do and talk about anything else, do I think Cities Skylines II is worth it at the moment? And with a lot of sadness in my voice, I would say no at this point. I'll explain why this would be a very heavy review because I've been playing Cities Skylines for a lot of years, and obviously you can see all of that in my channel as well. And I had a lot of expectations. I participate on the early access, and I have some opinions on what is happening and what needs to be done. So if you want to hear why I think it's not worth yet, just stick around and we'll get into it. But if you're new and don't know what Cities Skylines 2 is, basically it's a sequel for the Cities Skylines 1, which is a city builder where you build the city of your dreams, basically. And if you can think of, you can build it. And this is the premise for the game. On their Steam page, what they say is raise a city from the ground up and transform it into a thriving metropolis with the most realistic city build ever. Push your creativity and problem solving to build on a scale you've never experienced. With deep simulation and a living economy, this is a world building without limits. So this is pretty cool. This gives you a lot of ideas and gives you a lot of expectations around the game, and that's where we'll tackle today. But before I get into any of this, I just want to thank you all for all your likes, all your comments, and all your participation on videos. Even if it's just watching it, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think I'll start with a lot of the positives of the game, and I'll start with it's a completely new game engine based on the first one. They got to a point on the first one where they couldn't update the engine they were using, and that became a problem because they couldn't get more performance, more graphics, and push things a little bit further. And then the game kind of got stuck in time in there. They built on a new engine at the moment. They're using Unit for that, which was the same as the first one, but which a much newer engine. And that has made a big change. So everything looks more realistic. They're going for more realistic graphics as well, not as goofy as they had before, like with that very cartoonish cars and things like that. So they are looking for more realism now and really digging into the realistic part of the city building, which is quite good and shows a lot as well. I think they nailed the music, although I want to see more and more music coming in, but they nailed the music so far that's in the game, and it feels very immersive. And not just the music, the sound as well has been quite good, and everything feels a lot more immersive than the first game and less annoying in some cases as well, which is quite good. It reminds me of the old vibes of Sin City with that jazz playing in the background, which I loved. It also brings a lot more features into the base game, which will be a lifesaver for most of the players, especially the ones that are playing on vanilla and on console as well, where you usually wouldn't have access to the mods. And this is something really nice. And talking about mods, there will be mods in the future available for both PC and console, although there is some pros and cons to take in consideration because they're not using Steam Workshop anymore, and that's one of the reasons for them to move away for that is to provide those mods into the console. But what they will provide in console won't be coding changes, which basically means no traffic manager in the console, but bringing new assets like new buildings and new train stations, metro stations, and cars, things like that. So there are the pros in there, there are the cons. I don't really mind as far as we have access to that, which we don't at the moment. There's also the new climate feature, so you can play the game and you have basically winter, summer, autumn, and spring throughout the year, which is really nice. I like to see the changes in the how the game looks during those seasons, but I do think there are still some issues that need to be worked out in that. But I think this is really nice and changed quite a lot how the game plays throughout those seasons. Although it's not very clear while you are playing that there is a change happening because of the climate, but it does happen, and this is quite nice as well. It adds another level of difficulty to the game. Unfortunately, in my opinion, there are a lot of things that were promised throughout the hype that was built for almost a year since the announcement to the release of the game. And unfortunately, all that hype was just the hype itself. Why I say that? Because I still feel like features are incomplete or they simply won't work in the game. The game was released, there was a lot of issues, like for example, mail didn't work, garbage didn't work, production chain didn't work. They've released a lot of fixes throughout the weeks since the release, and in my opinion, they still don't work properly. You still get at least some mail being collected now, but the processing facilities, they basically don't work. There is no impact of internet on the game other than people complaining about not having it. It seems like there has some effect on having more offices if you add internet, but then you have internet coverage and signal strength and things like that. That doesn't make any change on the gameplay or on what's happening on your city. And no matter how many towers you add, you never go green in some areas. So it feels like it's still broken. Garbage, the garbage tracking that the trucks will go. I have a city where I have an area with high density buildings, and the trucks will go always on the same route. So they get to the first building, second, the third one, they're full, they go away. The next garbage truck that comes goes to the first building, second, third building, and then they go away. So there's a lot of buildings that never get their garbage picked up. So that is like quite annoying, and it basically breaks your city because then they complain, they're not happy, and the city doesn't evolve as it should because it's just broken. So there are other things like production chain. I mentioned about exporting. So now they kind of fixed exporting. I haven't explored that as much as I could yet. It seems like it's working better, but still it's causing a lot of issues with the behavior of industry and cargo harbor or cargo train stations and things like that. It seems like it's not balanced at all. So there is a lot of problems with the AI, with the features themselves, and things being completed or not really working. At the moment, the games for me feels like it's a beta game. I would expect this on a beta game or an early access, where you would expect these things to be tested, to be improved, and to be fixed along the way. And this is not a full release of the game, in my view. I've been playing early access games for a long time, and you can see the ones that I played in my channel as well. And I would expect this to be like those, and it's not. So that is a very big consideration there. We're paying premium price for a full release of the game, and that is a lot of issues that the game is not there yet as a full release. And that's why basically my recommendation is that it's not worth it yet, because there is a lot to be done. I think the game has a lot of potential, but it has a long way to go before it's ready as well. And I'll make sure that I do another release when I feel like the game is finally good to go and for everyone to enjoy it to its fullest. Unfortunately, this is just the beginning of the list of things that we have problems. Graphics is another one that has a lot of issues, and it doesn't work. Basically, it affects performance, it affects how the game looks like. Doesn't matter if you are playing on the highest setting possible or on the lowest one, you will have graphics problems. That is a given at the moment. every single release that they, or updates that they released of the game, they are improving graphics. In my personal opinion, every single release that we got, or again, every single updates that we got since the release, it actually introduced a new issue with the graphics. So today, what I have and how I play the game is a little bit worse than what I had and what I played at the release time. So this is a big issue for me. I have a high-end computer. I wouldn't expect having issues with any games on high settings. They should perform very well. And there are some situations where frame rate drops to 1 frame per second. Considerably, almost all the time we have a very good frame rate at the moment. But then you have issues where graphics will just lose the textures and everything will turn black and the game will become like very slow, even though having a very good frame rate, you turn very slow. And when I say very good frame rate, it's from 40 to 50. The game will just slow down and then I'll have to stop playing, wait for around 15 minutes. Yes, I have to wait 15 minutes until I don't know what's happening internally with the game. I look at my processor, it's good. I look at my GPU, the game takes a lot of it, but I'm still at 90%, so I have bandwidth. Same thing with my processor, or my CPU. It goes like around 75, 80%, and I still have enough power to process things, but the game just can't keep up with that. And for me, recording videos, it's a big issue because I usually recording that I would do in 2 or 3 hours is taking at least 5, 6. So it takes a long time. When I do live streams as well, sometimes I have to reload the game and it causes issues, it doesn't look good. And as a player, like not playing for recording videos, it gets very frustrating as well because it impacts that immersion that I mentioned before, that the sounds, the music, they're all working and then the games start to get like stuck and lagging and frames are okay, my settings are okay, everything works except the game, and this is very frustrating. It builds up while playing and you get to a point where it's like, yeah, that's enough, I'll stop playing it, and you go away and do something else, play another game, and that's it. Now, something related to graphics as well is accessibility. There are a lot of accessibility issues in the game. Those accessibility issues doesn't only impact people that actually need those to be able to play the game, but everyone. There is a lot of contrast issues, like you open the overlays and things are so white that you can't actually see the information on the overlay. Sometimes you can't read because you have white text on the very white washed out background, and you have 5-6 colors of residential zoning with very small different shades of green, and most often than not, I have no idea what I've zoned in there. If it was low, medium, high, or whatever it is. And there's no difference between the styles as well, between the North American and the European style. So at a glance, you can't see it. You have to open the building, look for an icon. If you don't remember what those icons are, you have to look at open the menu for the zoning, check the icon, and remember, because you can have both open as well, so you have to check that out and compare, and then you know what you've zoned. So there are a lot of problems like that, areas where you can't really read what's on the screen, and I think accessibility is very important for everyone, and it should be looked at as a priority, not just graphics, but accessibility issues as well. Now, keeping with the theme of graphics and things like that, the game looks most of the time very great as well. There is a reason for that. I understand why it is like that, but I think this needs to be tweaked a little bit. So what's happening? When you play the game, you have the seasons, and usually when it's winter, you have lower light, or when it's raining and when it's overcast, you have like big shadows and you don't have a lot of light and things look a little bit washed out like in real life, and the game tries to replicate that. The problem is on maps, like for example, I'm playing on the Fire Island, which is based here where I live in Brisbane, Queensland in Australia, and then most of the time, like we don't have long periods of rain. It's sunny almost the whole year, and when it rains, like you get one day every season overcast, like for for the full day, and it's a little bit more than that. But it's just like it's not noticeable. It's not something that feels depressive, and because it's gray all the time, you know, or overcast. And but in the game, you basically have a 6-month raining season that is raining non-stop, where everything is gray and overcast, and it looks off. It feels depressing, and it doesn't make me want to play the game. So it's not just changing seasons from it's summer, then it's autumn, and the trees will change colors and look a little bit yellowish, and those like really nice autumn colors, and then it's winter, and some maps will snow, other maps won't, and then you get spring where everything like starts to have very vivid colors, and then summer is like everything is happy. You don't get that. You get very small periods of the happy place in the game, and everything else feels like it's raining, or it's snowing, or it's gray, it's overcast. And I think these also needs to be tweaked. What I would expect to see, not just like complaining, so giving some suggestions as well, is that you have quick rains. So it rains like for a couple of minutes, a few minutes. If it's a rainy season, you get that a little bit more often, but that's not constant. When you change the colors, you can get shadows, but you don't need to turn the colors off as much as well. And it's the same thing with all the seasons. Rain, especially rain, I think that's the one that's affecting me the most at the moment. Every single thing I do, it's raining, so it needs to stop. It can rain, but it should rain for a couple of minutes, stop, give some time for you to refresh, to get the visuals back, and then rain a little bit more. Sometimes rain with the sun shining, because that's very summerish, like those storms that you get on a summer afternoon. And it's the same thing with the snowstorms as well. And I think that's what's missing, and that's how it could be improved. Now, moving away, but not quite, from graphics, you have the camera tools, which has a lot of features. I completely agree with that. That's overwhelming with the amount of things you can change and tweak with that. But that's extremely frustrating to use. The way it works, the UI on how you interact with that, especially if you're doing cinematics, it's very, very frustrating. And there's a lot of bugs with that as well. So things like you add a movement, and then all of a sudden your camera do this almost 360-degree change because it just decided to do that, and then you can't actually eliminate that. You can change things slightly, because if you try it, everything changes as well, and then the camera is still moving, and then the UI shows up, and then you're like, oh, this was potentially one of the most important parts of the footage, and it ruined because it showed the UI. Everything you change, you can save it, but more often than not, it just breaks when you try to reuse it. And when you're trying to add new steps, you have to change the placement of the camera instead of just adding points to where you want. And if you try to change that slightly, it's a nightmare. It's like, or you get it right first, or you have to delete and start again. Basically, that's what happens in practice, and that's very frustrating. Small area of the game, I understand it, but as a content creator that do a lot of videos for the game, this is one of the areas that affects me quite a lot as well. Now we can talk a little bit about the new AI, or the promised new traffic AI of the game. I gotta say, there was a lot of hype built around that, and it's actually incredibly frustrating at the moment. In my opinion, the AI is very broken. Like, one of the things that they promise is that the cars would be able to recalculate their routes along the way and find smarter ways to get to the destination, avoiding traffic, avoiding traffic accidents and things like that. In practice, that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. They'll find where the traffic is, and they will actually add to the traffic. And when I say they will add to the traffic, is because they will decide to stop on a highway, on the lane in the middle, and do a 90-degree turn to try to go to the lane on the side to get to an off-ramp, for example. It's very frustrating. They do it everywhere, and the way you build roads in the game, in my opinion, feels like it's a little bit broken, because it creates some very close together nodes that most of the players won't know about, or won't even know what a node is in the game. We just know it because we play a lot of mods, and like, if you know node controller, you know that you tackle those nodes in CS1, so you can change it slightly and make it behave a little bit better. And in Cities Skylines 2, you have the node system on how they break into segments of road. It's very broken and adds to the issue. I don't know if that's what's the only thing that's causing problems, but it feels like the AI and the decisions it makes to go from point A to point B are very, very broken. It also affects the emergency services, which they promise a lot of smarter ways for emergency services to get into the to a traffic accident, for example, or a fire, or a crime scene. And in practice, that's not what I see in the game. Sometimes they will avoid the red traffic lights or the no left turn, but every single car in the game will avoid that anyway. So there are, for example, pedestrian roads. Any car will go onto pedestrian roads, not just service cars. So I feel like there's a lot broken in there. Again, this adds that feeling that the game is still in beta. It's not a fully game that was ready to be released as a full game, and there is a lot to be fixed there. And this adds a lot of frustration, because you get a lot of traffic that you can't control, and you can't do anything to fix that. Not being able to fix something in the game, which, as they say, you can have a challenge and like push your creativity and problem solving to build on a scale you've never experienced. Yeah, great. But if it's unsolvable, then it just feels frustrating and feels like a promise has been broken in there. So that is why I feel like this is bad, because a lot of people is like, how do I fix this? And it's like, yeah, there is no fix. This is just the AI that's broken, and that's very, again, I know that I'm repeating that a lot, but that's very frustrating. Now, I could talk quite a lot about just the traffic AI or AI in general, but I'll move on because there are a lot of other things to talk about. And one of the other things that I feel like needs to be improved in quite a lot is actually the citizens and how the citizens behave in the game. So if you take a look at citizens and what they're doing, it's basically, there is a lot of citizens that go to their residence, and most of the residents are just outside of the building doing nothing. And you look at them, just like idling and at their residential address. And it feels like they're just stuck. They are not alive. They're not participating in the city on the events that happen in the city, and they feel quite off. Not to mention that they're very scary and they're always with those very creepy smile and wide eyes looking at you, and that feels like very creepy. So there are a lot of things that need to be fixed with the citizens. Please, this has been a bit creepy. They also don't seem to go like to parks and enjoy their time over there. Parks in the game are not really being used other for some abandoned dogs, which is quite surprising. But I've been looking at some parks and see like what happened in there. Do we have animations? And all the parks are empty. Even the kind of homeless feature that we were supposed to have. I've seen that once when the game was released, having those camp tents in a park, and I haven't seen that anymore. I do have homeless in the city, and that I have youth, and I can't see their tents or they live in the parks as was promised at all. Its citizens in general is broken. Parks are not being used, and as I mentioned, like there are no animations in there. They are not being used in there. This is another thing that we are missing: the lack of animations. So if you look at Cities Skylines 1, you look at a soccer or football field, and you look at a baseball stadium or any parks in general, and you would see the animations in there, people doing something, a game being played, and or even like firefighters when they go to extinguish a fire, they go in there. Cities Skylines 1, there are two firefighters. They'll leave the truck with a hose. You see they throwing water on the fire. They'll extinguish it and then they'll go back to the truck. Same thing with the hearse. They'll stop, go out, get a coffin, and then put that in the car and go away. There's nothing like that in Cities Skylines 2. So again, it's not complete. This is missing. And the reason why it should be there, I'm not just saying like, oh, they just are ignoring things. No, it's not. It's because there was the base game in Cities Skylines 1. And the minimum I think myself and everyone else was expecting is that the basics of the Cities Skylines 1, the base game, even if it was the same game, but with updated graphic engines, updated AI and things like that, the basics would all be in the game, and they're not there. This is really, really lacking. And all these small details, they play a big part in a city builder, and those are the things that we usually look at and try to find some kind of Easter eggs sometimes and things like that. For example, that's one kind of cute Easter egg in Cities Skylines 2, which is in February. You see in some restaurants and commercial buildings, you see some hearts popping up, which is just to say it's Valentine's Day. This is cool, but I would love to have the other animations instead of just hearts popping up from a building during Valentine's Day. They have the right ideas, I think, but they didn't complete the basic features, and unfortunately I think they are aiming for what they've done initially with Cities Skylines 1, which was let's try this game out, get it out there, and then we keep adding on top of that along the way. This worked with Cities Skylines 1 because no one knew Colossal Order and the Cities Skylines franchise was a new game, and that paid off because they've added quite a lot that was broken in other games like SimCity at that time. They're trying to do the same thing, but now there are expectations on what the base game should be and what should be in there, and they're missing the mark quite a lot in there. Talk about missing the mark. City economy is actually broken and keeps breaking, and why I say that, I'm building cities, and at some point of the simulation I get to a point where I'm making money, which is quite easy to do in the game, and you have so much money. I don't know if the game has some issues with big numbers, but then I'm all on the positive on the income, and then my money starts to vanish. Everything starts to go down. Let's say, throwing just numbers out of the blue here, just to give you an example. Let's say I'm making 100,000 per month. I'm losing 500,000 per month in my accumulated money. So it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really adds up. You look at all the finance and exporting, importing, production chain, everything is good, but you're just looking insane amount of money, and then the only solution you have is or to start a new city or to load the game with infinite money and keep playing like that. I don't like to keep with infinite money because I like the challenge, which hasn't been much of a challenge at the moment as well. That's why I think like the economy needs to be worked out still, but also these like it's that there are bugs everywhere basically, and this is kind of making the whole economy broken. Even with the exporting, there's a lot of things that doesn't really seem to be working, and the amounts that you get from the economy or that you need to sustain your city feels like they're very unrealistic. I've seen some people doing videos like on how many farms or specialized industry you need to actually cater for your city. And it's basically the whole map, just farms and specialized industry. So it feels a little bit off to maintain a healthy city and a balanced city in that way as well. One added thing to the city production or the production chain actually that I would like to add, the whole UI for the production chain seems like just a wireframe from what that should look like. And that's so odd and so bad UI for compared to everything that you have in the game. And I would really suggest them to work and make it look a little bit better, other than just providing a big square in the center of the UI saying this is metal, and then another square connected to that saying, oh, this is ore, and you can transform one into the other. So that looks really, really bad. Doesn't feel like the same game. Now, I'm getting to the end of this, but I would like to say that the maps that I include in the game are also very basic and they don't provide great areas to build. What I think they done was basically get some real life map areas and put that in the game. That's great, that's really good, but it made all the terrain very uneven everywhere, and the game doesn't handle those areas quite well. As the first game, we had problems with that as well in with like hilly areas and things like that, and that's okay. But on the first game, you had a lot of options where you could actually build without worrying too much about that. On this game, it's really a challenge to start a map without having to work with the landscaping tools and trying to change how the terrain looks like in the areas that you're building, because otherwise things will just look odd. I have some areas in my city before we had that overlay for the hand height, and they just look really, really awful, like really, really bad. So I think this is something that we should have more map options with. I know that will come later, I understand that, but the ones that are included in the game, I think they should be reworked and changed slightly to allow better areas for us to build on new maps playing with vanilla only. Now, with all that considered, I think what I feel about the game is it has too many bugs, it has too many graphic issues and performance issues, it doesn't have any detailing options. I say doesn't have any. It has like half a dozen trees and bushes, and that's it. You don't have assets to place, and that feels very, very shallow as a whole. It feels to me that I'm playing the game once and I'm not encouraged to create a new city to build the game, to play the game again, because I don't have many options that will make my city look different. Yes, I can build on another map. Yes, I can make a different road layout, but things will all look the same. Although the number of props in the game is actually insane on house, there's a lot of the same house. They just change the props. So looking from afar into the game, everything looks a little bit the same, unfortunately. So we need more assets as well to make sure that cities actually look different and they're just not a copy and paste. I think if I would have to, in a sentence, say how I feel about the game, I feel that the game is too shallow at the moment and it needs a lot more work in terms of bug fixing, performance, detailing, and actually fixing all the main features before it's ready. So in conclusion, that's basically my conclusion, but do I think the game is worth it at the moment? I don't think it's worth it. I think it's worthwhile for everyone that wants to take a look at it and have the game, because I believe in the future, and by the future I mean 6 months, 1 year, maybe the game might be worthwhile, and I'll be doing another review when I feel like that. But for now, I don't think, especially if you are new on this, or if you play a lot of city builder genres, this might be frustrating for you. If you are new to the genre, you might take some things out of it and enjoy a little bit. But there will be areas where you still have issues, and you have to know that those issues are not your fault, but actually the game mechanics that are still faulty at the moment. Will I still be playing the game? Yes, I will. It's a genre that I like. I'm still betting that the game will improve in the future, and I really enjoy Cities Skylines 1 and I want to enjoy Cities Skylines 2, but I do feel like I'm slowing down all my gameplay on Cities Skylines 2 until new updates and fixes for those things actually start coming in. But that's it for today. This was a lengthy review because I think I'm passionate about the genre, I'm passionate about the Cities Skylines franchise, and I have high expectations for this game, and I'm very passionate about all of that. And I hope I could show you what are the things that are frustrating me and that I think could be fixed, and some options on how to fix some of those as well. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have played the game, especially if you agree with what I'm saying, or if you have a different opinion, they're always welcome. I'm open for different ways of thinking and to see things on a different light as well. This is all based on my personal experience of the game, and I'm more than keen to change it and to do another review when new updates come out. So thank you a lot for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!